Yeah, it's just not going away, is it? I bet when this story broke and the BBC changed the rules, they thought, yeah, it's going to be bad PR for a little while, but it will soon get buried. It will soon get buried. Where are we now? A couple of years later, we're still talking about it. That's got to sting the BBC, right? Arrogant BBC must suspend prosecutions for TV licence non-payment, says Dennis Reid. Now, Dennis Reid is the director of Silver Voices, which is an OAP charity. He represents loads of campaigns, not just TV licence stuff. There's the pension stuff and all that. So if you're in that age bracket, go and have a look. I quite like Silver Voices. Google them, you'll find them and find out how to talk to them. But this story is about he wants everyone over the age of 75 or over 80s or those dementia to get free telly licence. It's a bit all over the shop. And it's the BBC's fault. The BBC are at fault here completely. Government a little bit too, because the government did fund the free TV licences for the over 75s, and then they passed the buck to the BBC, who said, well, we can't afford it. We only get 3.7 billion quid a year. So now only those, the poorest, who are on pension credit can have a free licence. And I've never understood it. I've never understood it because those are the oldest people in the country, the over 75s, are the people that have paid into the system most of all. Think of all the houses they've lived in, all the places they've lived in the UK. And there weren't all these TV channels and streaming services before. So they've paid their TV licences for all these years. It should be anyone over the age of 60, 65, no matter what your circumstances, is eligible for a free TV licence if you want it. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. And this bit here, look. In direct talks with Mr. Davey, I suggested widening the exceptions for paying the fee to include, for example, all those living with dementia and the over 80s, but he would not listen. Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago, Dennis Reid had an actual proper meeting with Tim Davey. He had all his questions ready, he was ready to rock and roll and interested to meet the boss of the BBC. And at the last minute, the boss of the BBC pulled out and sent two of his lackeys. Quite high up lackeys, to be fair, but two of his lackeys nonetheless. But it sounds like he might have actually talked to him. It was the first I've heard of it. If he did, I would have hoped he would have emailed me if he did. But the problem here is, look, he says he wants to widen the fee to include, for example, all those living with dementia and the over 80s. This dementia one jumps out again because the goons have been specially trained to deal with vulnerable people and those with dementia. And I've spoken to a couple of people on the inside who couldn't give me all the information because they didn't want to be identified or drop themselves in it. But this training was provided by a dementia charity, but they didn't send anyone in to train them. From what I gather, it was about an hour and a half of watching videos either on a telly or on an iPad. And now you're fully trained to deal with people with dementia, even though you earn commission and you're incentivized to probably ignore some of your training. I don't get it. It's the wrong way to pay them, isn't it? Commission. And the problem is, it says here that TV licensing have been unable to prosecute the hundreds of thousands of over 75s who have not paid the licence fee since 2020 because of the uproar this would cause. It's going to come. It's going to come. And there will be horror stories. It's going to be one vulnerable person with possible dementia getting stitched up by a goon for his commission. And that's going to be awful. The BBC just need to just put your hands up. I would give the BBC some respect. They just put their hands up and say, yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're going to give the free licences back to the over 75s. And the other thing here, I mean, I get that Dennis Reid is talking about this, but any time that there's a TV licence story in the Express, they wheel out either Dennis Reid or what's her name, Rebecca from Defund the BBC, but give us all your money to do it. Why are they not talking to people who've got proper skin in the game? Dennis Reid isn't all about the TV licence. He doesn't know everything there is to know about the TV licence and how it all works and everything. He just represents a charity that does other stuff, and one of their things is TV licence. Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC should be a good voice in things like this, but name something that Defund the BBC have done with all that money you give them. I'll wait, because I contacted them to try and find out what they spent the money on. I thought it'd be an interesting story to report that they're leading the fight, spending your money that you donated. What did I get in return for it? I got blocked on all social media and completely blanked. So if you donated money to Defund the BBC, why don't you drop them an email and ask what they've done with it? Because I can't seem to see anything they've done with it. They had that Calvin for a while, and he's buggered off. He's a deacon or something now, isn't he? And he does a bit with GB News. I can't remember the name of the original guy who started it all, who contacted me, because he started it after seeing my first video on the channel here. And we talked, and I was going to do a couple of bits with them, but I decided against it in the end, because I like to control where my own face appears. Do you know what I mean? And now they've all gone, and this Rebecca, who seems to run a marketing agency as well, is just asking for your money all the time. And I can't see what they're doing with it. I'm not saying they're doing anything they shouldn't be doing with your money. Nothing nefarious here. I'm not accusing them of anything. I would just like to know where it's gone so I can make a video about it and tell you all about the good fight that they're fighting. So if you donated money to them, drop them an email or a tweet or something and ask them what they did with your money. But do prepare to be blocked on social media for asking anyway. But why, all of that aside, I went off a bit of a tangent there, didn't I? Why do they always wheel out the same people in the Express? Dennis Reed or Rebecca Ryan? Why aren't they speaking to people who've got a bit more skin in it? I'm not necessarily talking about myself. I'm not doing this for that, to appear in the papers. But there's other people out there, like Mr. H's Hot Pot, that's seen it all, knows it all. Talk to him. Go on TV Licence Resistance Forum. There's people on there that have seen everything, been through everything, and know everything there is to know, and all the stories about TV licensing. They are the voices that you need to have for comment on TV licensed stories. Right? So what do you think about any of that then? Do let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because that way, hopefully, I'll see you in another video again soon. Ta-da.